Hey guys, happy Monday. So Christmas came kind of early for me this year, and I started a new job today. It's like a step up in the game, not necessarily at my most recent employer. It is with a new company. It is completely remote, the way that I wanted to be working, just based on the pandemic. And I want to mention that, like, I was a person that was completely against working from home. I hated it. It was not something I enjoyed when we were forced into it. But I think after like working through it, I love it now. I love the flexibility, and I now get to work from home 100%. And when I finish my work day, I'm going to have a chat with you guys about imposter syndrome and how it almost got in the way of me being able to take this next step in my professional career. So stay tuned for that talk or that chat. All right, guys. So a special shout out to my sister, Kayla. It says, congratulations on this new journey, sister. Your faithfulness never goes unnoticed. I'm always with you. Love you to life, KP. She's so sweet, y'all. And she got me this little edible arrangement. Now, I want to mention that this definitely came while I was in a meeting. And I looked at the door like, I know ain't nobody interrupting me, but this was such a pleasant surprise. Thank you, sis. Hey guys, so welcome back. My first official work day is complete, and so I just wanted to quickly have a discussion about imposter syndrome and how I almost let it get the best of me. So, you know, maybe like midsummer or even earlier this year, I started to get random emails from people, maybe on LinkedIn, or they saw my resume on Indeed or something like that, that wasn't even 100% up to date, but they were emailing me about some kind of like marketing manager role. And honestly, I just kind of felt like, why are y'all emailing me about this? You guys know that I am not qualified for this. I am not in the right position for you to even be contacting me about this. Like, I don't have enough experience. I haven't been in any of these roles long enough to really be able to tackle a role such as that one. Loud sigh, because I had already doubted myself. I had already shot myself down as not even having the chance and not even really considering the full opportunity that was in front of me. So I didn't pay any attention. I started to get a few more of those emails over time, and then I think in the back of my mind I started to think, well, you know, maybe this is something that I need to do. Maybe this is something that I should consider. Maybe this is the next step for me. I had been doing a lot of like praying and a lot of like you know, just kind of self-development just in relation to like increase. So, you know, my consistent prayer would be that, Lord, I pray for increase, and not that it's a monetary value, but like just increase in responsibilities, increase in abilities and capabilities, just increase from a growth perspective. Like, I want to have progressive growth. I want to expand the reach of what I'm able to do. I want to expand my influence in what I do, whatever it was. You know, I was just looking at it that way, and I think that God was simply trying to give me what I asked for, and I constantly shut it down. And I don't know why I did that, but I did. And then I started to finally really take looking for a new role a lot more seriously. I started to be super selective about what I was seeking out, and I even started to you know, kind of cancel out those options that would keep me in the same level playing field, that wouldn't give me that level of progression, that wouldn't be that boost up, that wouldn't be that step up. You know, at this point, I feel like I'm in a position where I've worked in marketing long enough to where maybe it is time for me to take that next step, take that leap into that next step, into that next level, and really be able to allow my knowledge base and my influence to, you know, propel me forward. However, imposter syndrome told me that I wasn't capable. But I will say this, I'll say that as I started to, you know, pursue other roles and go through the interviewing process, I'm gonna be honest with you, the interview process right now can be very discouraging depending on the company, because where one company might have 4 interviews, another company might want you to go on 8 interviews. And in my opinion, it doesn't make sense when the role pays less, when the role is not a management role. I get that this role may have to work cross-functionally with all these different teams, but I think at some point there's like interview overload. At what point have you like overextended the candidate? If you really want this candidate to really consider, you know, like what you're talking about and what you have to offer, you have to make it, what's the right word? You have to make it attractive. That's it. You have to make it attractive. It has to be appealing to them. It has to be a process that they can appreciate, a process that they can learn as much as possible. I started to realize that this is the same company that has me going on 8 interviews, and everybody is literally asking me the same questions. Nobody is challenging me. Nobody is really asking me to do anything above what I've done on the last 7 interviews that I've been on. Like, this is useless. And then, you know, the other thing that I think started to make me feel a certain kind of way is I started to ask for a certain amount of money, and some people would just say, listen, that's not in our budget. Okay, fine, bye. And then, you know, after a while though, when it's the role that you're really interested in, or when it's the company that would be so amazing for you to work with, and you start hearing no from them, then you start to second guess yourself again, like, whoa, wait a minute. Is it me? Or is it just that I'm not a good fit for that? And so the first thing that I will say in combating imposter syndrome, you have to stop for a second before you allow doubt and fear to cloud your judgment. You really have to identify your purpose. Like, what are we doing right now, and what's the overarching goal? What's the intended outcome? Let's be clear about those things. Let's clearly define those things, and let's be clear about whatever our plan is to get there. Now, of course, when you're talking about looking for a job, there are only so many factors that you have control over. And so yes, let's look at that. What are the controlled variables in this experience? And then what are those independent variables that we know depend on the company, that we know are completely out of our control, but we can influence based on the manner in which we perform? You know, really just plan out that kind of thing. The next thing was, I would challenge you to go through the process and say, why would I be great for this opportunity? List them out. Be clear about why you're amazing, and then use that as your daily affirmation to manifest the success that's coming in the near future for you. Now, another thing that I will say is, you know, be sure that you are mentally prepared for the process. It can be discouraging. It can be exhausting. It can be heavy. Just in relation to like it being constant, and then even sometimes it being dragged out, and timing, and there are so many other factors that can just make it difficult. Or maybe not even that. Maybe it's not a smooth sailing process. That's what it is. You know, there are shifts and turns and dips and jumps, and you just have to be flexible when it comes to how you consider the experience, because really and truthfully, you have to have an open mind about the experience. Because if you set expectations and limitations on what will happen for you, it is very possible that none of that will happen, and you will be completely pissed off because you thought X, Y, and Z, and A, B, and C is really happening. So just be flexible about what's to come. Don't put limitations on it. Don't define the parameters and only allow that to be the option for you. Another thing that I would say, if you are a spiritual person, prayer is going to be a major necessity for you. When I started this process, I started to listen to a sermon daily, and I prayed constantly. Sarah Jake Roberts is one of the people that I listen to a lot. And then Priscilla, I think her name is Schreier. I just randomly go on YouTube and choose a sermon for the day. And what I started to realize is the sermon would somehow either speak to how I'm currently feeling about the process, or it would speak to what could possibly happen that day. And you know, I'm starting to realize, and it's also something that I continued because I realized the power of those two habits and how they make a difference. And when I don't start my day with it, and so that's the other thing, another factor to consider, I would start my day with it. It was the first thing I did every day. And in the most recent few days, because I've been mixing up and because I've been all over the place and I have a few other things going on, I didn't start my day with it, and it made such a difference. Not that I had a bad day, but it just made a difference. And so I just think, like, you know, get into a habit of allowing positivity to be poured into you in a way that you don't have to do it for yourself. Because let's be transparent about this process. It is very difficult to constantly motivate and encourage yourself when you're going through the process of something like looking for a job. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Another thing was, I actually did not include like my entire close circle in this process. I kind of started this process without really telling a whole lot of people, and then luckily for me, like all of my close friend group, everybody just recently got a new job. And so, you know, I think once I started to realize that I'm praying for them and they don't even know it, and more than likely they're praying for me too and I don't know it, and just watching God work on their behalf just really allowed me to understand, you know, when God's blessing around the corner, your blessings coming next. And it was just so encouraging to watch that happen for them, and then later see it happen for me, and to get everything I want. Now, I also want to be clear about something. Initially, when COVID happened, I was not interested in working remotely. That was never something I was interested in because I felt like I didn't have the self-control to sit down and do my work. Once COVID happened, you know, we were kind of forced into it. It was miserable because we couldn't go anywhere. Once life returned to normal and we still were working in a remote capacity, I started to realize how flexible it allowed my life to be, how much easier it was to incorporate working out, the elimination of traffic to and from work, the elimination of actually having to get dressed every day and actually having to be completely put together, the flexibility to put my dinner on while I'm cooking, or, you know, wash my hair, allow it to deep condition while I'm working all day, or clean on my lunch break, or whip something up real quick. You know, all of that was just very attractive to me. And I told myself my next role is going to be completely remote. And I spoke that thing into the atmosphere, and it happened. Because there were other roles that I was being considered for that were not completely remote. They were hybrid, and thankfully I didn't get those roles. So, you know, we have to be clear. We also have to be clear about not settling. I was fine with considering those roles, and I was fine with, you know, making those roles work for me, but I'm glad that they didn't, because God worked that thing out so that I could have what I want. Now, another thing that I would say just in relation to combating imposter syndrome would be just to truly use your confidence to push you. You know, the same way that we, okay, so females, or not even females, this, I guess this can go for anybody. You know, when you get fresh, like, let's just say, I use a prime example. It's your birthday, right? And you are going out. And, you know, for the fellas, y'all got that fresh cut. For the girls, your hair laid. You know, you got that perfect outfit on. You have pieced everything together perfectly. And you ready to slay. Or you ready to get fresh on the board, right? Consider that level of confidence that you have. Or consider that level of confidence when you gas yourself up like, y'all ain't working harder than me. Y'all can't do this job better than me. You know, you gotta really pour into yourself too. Even though I mentioned previously, you know, pour positivity or allow positivity to be poured into you, that you don't have to be the source of that pouring. But to be honest with you, in order to really combat imposter syndrome, you have to be able to gas you up. At some point, it becomes an individual experience. It's no longer about like, it's no longer about what somebody else has said about you, what somebody else affirms or confirms about you, or even what somebody believes. Because when you're going through this interview process, and you'll start to notice this, you know, when people start asking you questions, and you know, it might be a challenging question, you sometimes can scare yourself based on how you answer the question. This time around, I think this interview process for the few roles that I was being considered for really taught me how much I knew, because I started to realize that, like, just in my day-to-day activities of all the roles that I had been in prior to this one, you know, wow, you really know a lot. Wow, you've really done a lot. And where you said you didn't have enough experience, you actually have more than enough. And it's more so about you being able to communicate the diversity of the experience that you have to be applied in so many different environments and areas and things like that. And I think, like, I shocked myself sometimes in the way that I was answering questions, in the way that I was able to apply my knowledge. And it was so easy for me that I started to realize that, Jessica, walk into your destiny, walk into your purpose, walk into your power, walk into this blessing and make it work for you. So I hope that this quick little chat encourages and inspires you to combat imposter syndrome, because it's real. It's a real thing, and even the most confident of us will struggle with it at some point, because you just start to realize, yes, you're amazing, but so we can describe so many other people in the world the same way. You know, when you start to think about, like, people applying for roles and how competitive the job market is, you know, it's very easy for imposter syndrome to sneak into your professional life. So I want to make sure that I am giving you the tools to really be able to slap imposter syndrome down every time it tries to inch into your space. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Vlogmas, and I hope you guys come back for more. Bye.